We moved to Pendleton in the summer of 2002, so we're approaching 23 years here now. When I was working full time for the tribe and raising 4 kids, I didn't have a lot of time to explore the area. Trips to Hermiston, Pilot Rock, Walla Walla were all based on necessity. Doctor's appointments, sporting events for the kids or myself, or buying something that we couldn't get in town. In addition, because of the time constraints, these trips tended to be rushed and very goal-oriented. What's the fastest way to get there, get what we need, and then get home? That was the question. Maybe that's why I didn't really discover Reith Road until I'd quit my job with the tribes, and all but one of the kids were gone from the house. Scott Fairley always used to talk about it being a really pretty drive, and I'd headed a little ways down the road with Scott O'Daniel on one occasion to look at the flooding of the river. Even at that point, though, we were taking trips in the camper van, we were going to Wales regularly, and I wasn't feeling that adventurous about just going local places. It wasn't enough to simply take this little drive down the road. That all changed with the pandemic. Fairley died in January, and we hit lockdown by March. No trips to Wales, no forays to the southwest in the camper van. At one point, Kimber brought over the book of 75 walks in the Northwest that Scott had bought, and I decided I'd start doing them. So for the first trip, I did a bunch of walks in the Columbia Gorge that are fairly nearby, and I thought it was appropriate to take a back route to those walks, leaving Pendleton through Reith. So I took this drive. This stretch of road between Pendleton and Echo is absolutely beautiful. With the river, the railroad, the expansive floodplain that's now agricultural land, and best of all, I think anyway, the rugged, steep bluffs that kind of hurl rocks on passing cars with alarming regularity. You see them scattered across the pavement. It feels like a stretch of road from a much more remote time and location. I imagine that at one point this was a much more trafficked road, but with the coming of the interstate in the 1970s or maybe earlier, traffic became much more sparse. Every time I've driven this 20 plus mile stretch, I see only one or two cars, and they're mostly farm trucks. Actually, you're much more likely to see trains that run regularly on the east-west route between Portland and Boise. Unfortunately, the regular passenger trains quit running the route in the 1990s. I think it was 1997. So it's all freight at this point. Basically, not many people get to see this section of the Umatilla River Valley. That is, unless they're specifically looking for it. This morning I had a doctor's appointment in Hermiston, and my drone had just come back from getting repaired. So I figured a little adventure on the way home would be worth my time. Of course, it's almost always worth the time, but nonetheless, it seems that I rarely take it. I'm glad I did this morning.